And we are back now, getting ready for our first qualifying match of the open stage of ESL Masters Winter at Dreamhack Atlanta. Tis going to be a PvZ coming down this time. It's going to be SKillous, who just followed, and we followed throughout his entire journey so far in ESL Masters Winter, up against Lambo, who we haven't quite been able to get our eyes on, but apparently he did beat Reaper, and he did beat Shin to get to this point.
Oh, he did, and now we're diving into game number 1 of this qualifying match, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the red German player. The Zerg player representing Shopify Rebellion going for a 15-15. It is Lambo.
And spawning over here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the bottom right-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our blue Protoss player coming down to represent Team Liquid. We have SKillous. And yeah, I did kind of have my eyes on SKillous. I did kind of peg him as being the favorite after beating DRG, now as the favorite to qualify and advance. But it has been brought to my attention that in this bracket, Lambo is the top seed technically. So that throws that throws another wrench into the predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lambo and SKillous are pretty comparable when it comes to skill overall. As we mentioned before, comparing Lambo to Shin, I do think it's pretty applicable to SKillous as well, where SKillous, he's top 3 Protoss in the EU, and Lambo is right alongside him when it comes to the Zerg players in Europe as well. So this could go either way. As a reminder, there is a lower bracket as well, so the winner of this series advances on into next round. The loser will have another shot, another chance to qualify.
Indeed. Qualifying from here just, gives you a little bit more ease, gives you a little bit more peace of mind as you do just get ready for that knockout stage tomorrow.
Definitely, as you will be able to advance on. And meanwhile, for the time being, Lambo did go for a 15-15 opener. Did go for, something a little bit inefficient in a way, but safer, as he's able to get his natural base on location. This will deter SKillous from going for something like a Twilight Council-based opener, just because it's going to be a little bit easier here for Lambo to defend his bases and to spread his creep and to secure himself here in his both main and natural.
Yeah, just a nice, safe opening as Skillous once again is opting for a Stargate opener. Seems very fond of them in PvZ.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the meta, it's the standard, the stock standard for PvZ is a Stargate opener. But if you remember, Yaku, we have seen some different variations, right? We've seen Skillous go Oracle first, true. We've also seen him mix in those Phoenixes.
Yeah. Phoenix first, a nice little safe opener. We've seen him really utilize those oracles to devastating effect against CRG. What we haven't seen yet, though, is a Void Ray opening coming out from Skillous, which I'm hoping that we'll be able to get our eyes on at some point.
Yeah, I hope so as well. As the Stargate's about to finish up, our first unit of choice is on the way, and our first unit is going to be an Oracle here from Skillous, so is going to be going for, again, something a lot more standard, as we expect. With this Oracle, we gain map control, we can harass across the map, and as you mentioned, Skillous did an insane amount of economic damage last time against DRG. Can he replicate that, though, against Lambo?
Yeah, we shall see. A big reason of why Skillous was able to get that much damage against CRG was, of course, just because CRG was cutting corners here and there, kind of didn't take the Oracle threat as seriously as he really should have. Kept his queens a little bit isolated, that wasn't quite getting his spore crawlers, but Lambo this time, we do see him taking this quite seriously. A couple of spore crawlers are being thrown down at his bases, and his queens are in position to meet the oracles.
As you mentioned, right, like this time Lambo's got a spore in the main and the natural, unlike DRG, who was cutting corners and skipping spores. So yeah, he's going to be able to keep up for the time being, but this is merely the first Oracle, and we still have much more than that. The second Oracle is going to be moving out. Skillous back at home, taking his third base as we speak, and he's not being too active with his Adepts. His Adepts he's keeping at home. As we have our transition, we have our tag.
Yep. Not going to be too committed to the Stargate for now. Tis, of course, going to be a Twilight Council. And I was worried for a sec that we weren't going to see the Forge, but there we go. It does get thrown down.
There we go. So unlikely for it to be a Glaive opener, for example, or Glaive follow-up. Meanwhile, we do get into the main base. We do get 3 worker kills, but oh, that's a lot of damage dealt to these Oracles. Really good defense so far from Lambo. Sure, he's lost some units, that's true, but not for nothing, as he's done a lot of hull damage.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot trickier for SKillous to really turn around and get more damage with those Oracles in particular. He can, of course, recall them if need be. Nice little pick-off here from SKillous. Going to be able to take out a drone that I'm sure was hoping, dreaming really, to grow up and become a hatchery.
Wanted to live its dream of becoming a base, but it gets shot down in the prime of its life here. So big pickup from SKillous, delaying the 4th base. Lambo instead going to be going into +1 melee into a Roach Warren as well. So Lingbane Roach Ravager seems to be the soon-to-be composition of choice from Lambo. And SKillous, ooh, instead of going into Blink, that is something else entirely.
Yeah, there's Charge being researched at the Twilight Council, and a much, much quicker Templar Archives coming down. This is Charge with Archon.
Yeah, this is looking very similar to what we saw on Oceanborn against DRG, where SKillous was able to hit the timing with +1 and Charge, with a follow-up of Archons and eventually mass Immortal production. There we go, 2 Rovers are thrown down. Typically, I would assume this is for Colossus, but as we saw against DRG, against a Roach-heavy composition, he can get into as many Immortals as he pleases.
Yeah, I was gonna go into this whole thing about how Charge with Archon is very potent. It's pretty much as much of an anti-Roach army as you can get before the Immortals pop out, but this is SKillous we're talking about. He is gonna be the, what are they called? The pest controllers? He's looking to exterminate some roaches.
the exterminators, if you will. You had it.
There we go.
As SKillous is taking his 4th. Yeah, so what's interesting here about what SKillous is doing is that, unlike the previous game, he's throwing down these Rovers a lot faster. He's starting Immortal production even before the Archons. He is moving out with these Zealots, but not as committed here. There's no Prism to reinforce. He runs into a wave of Lings. Roaches are already here, and SKillous has to respect this. He has to back off. So Lambo, he's in a pretty good position. He hasn't really sustained too much damage whatsoever.
Yeah, he really hasn't. So he's still safe back at home. He's still building up his Roach count. He is safe enough that if he so chooses to, he can tech away from the Roaches as well. He's been unharassed for long enough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's been able to drone up to 73. Bearing in mind that he didn't cut workers at 3 base saturation. He has droned up a little bit further here to be able to facilitate this army. You see SKillous, now he's moving out. This time with Archons, this time with Immortals. This is going to be a much more dedicated push here from SKillous. Lambo, though, he meets up with the army. He, again, did not overdrone. He's focusing on his army production.
Yeah, taking this threat very, very seriously. I don't see a War Prism here for SKillous, so yeah, he doesn't really have a lot of sustainability with this army. He doesn't really have a way to reinforce, and doesn't really have a way to juggle and pick up his vulnerable units, and he's well aware of that. He turns around and yeah, just gonna be chilling back at home and making sure that he can get a much more potent army before moving out on the map.
Yeah, he was flirting with the idea of committing, but after seeing the army, he pulls back, and now Lambo, it's his turn to push. He's going to be pulling, not pulling the boys, he's going to be bringing the queens forward. Lings, Banelings, Roaches, they have arrived. It's going to be on SKillous to defend. The shield batteries, they're not done yet. They're still on the way. Stage traps are being thrown down as well. We don't really have much to protect these units here. We have a lot of Immortals and Archons, but where is the Gateway Army?
Yeah, well, if you making their way across the map, apparently, yes. Yeah, Lambo is now maxed out. SKillous still getting there. Sends a little force of charge slots out into the front, trying to distract the army of Lambo. A lot of Banelings crash into shield batteries. A lot of them get caught in stasis wards, and this is a little bit of a break that SKillous needed to chase us back. He's still losing a lot of probes to these Lings. Oracle's trying to deal with them as best they can, and they will be able to deal with them, just like so. SKillous has just about weathered the worst of it, but it's not over yet.
And here we go. The Banelings, they do crash on forward, and Lambo, he's not backing off, by the way. He's reinforcing, spreading creep here on the side of the map of SKillous. Archons are going down one after the other. The shield batteries, they were out of energy. We still have the Immortals, but only the Immortals do survive. That's a lot of them, though. That's 7, 8, 9. Yeah. We are up to 9 Immortals here for SKillous. Can we hold on?
That's way more Immortals than we normally see. Great bait into the stasis ward. Once again, catching just about every single Baneling and most of the Lings. A little bit awkward for SKillous to move out from this position, though.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of zoned away from his own fourth base. It's still under fire. The Immortals, they try to get some extra hits in, but alas, Stasis Trap is about to run out, and Lambo, he is once again looking to commit. He runs into another Stasis!
It's just never ending here with the Stasis wards, as SKillous does retreat to a bit of a more defensible location, but one that doesn't really have a lot of room to maneuver. A couple of vials will land, but it looks like SKillous has kept enough of his Immortals alive, has taken out enough of Lambo's queens and enough of his roaches and ravagers that, and now Lambo's a little bit on the back foot.
He's on 10 Immortal. He's making an 11th Immortal. I think we need to calm down a little bit here. Almost a pure Immortal army here, as we're going to be cleaning up all this creep. As you mentioned, Lambo, he is forced to back off. Still hasn't droned. Is squeezing out a couple of workers, trying to get on 4-base saturation, but a low gas count. He's just now taking towards the infestation pit. Still no Hydra Den, no Spire, for example. Still committed to Lingbane Roach Ravager.
Yeah, we're at the point now where SKillous is actually ahead on when it comes to both worker and army supply, so that massive advantage that Lambo had earlier on has just immediately dissolved. SKillous has a massive window of opportunity now to get something done.
Yeah, Lambo's falling behind. Like, as you just kind of alluded to, Lambo was very all-in, very committed to his attack. Thankfully not 3-base, but a 4-base all-in, essentially, from Lambo, and now he's being outscaled. Now, SKillous is snowballing out of control, and Lambo, he needs time to recover, needs time for his Hive to finish against Vipers, for example, or Infest, or Spellcasters of any kind, taking up into Hive as well, but the army, it's here, and now knocking down his front door.
Just like so, Lambo trying to come in from behind. There was a stasis ward, but it did get activated by only a handful of units. SKillous gets completely surrounded by the Zerg army, and that's just about every single Archon, almost every single Immortal taken out. And now SKillous is very much on the back foot. He underestimated how much army Lambo had left, and he paid the absolute massive price for it.
Yeah, that was the best angle of attack for Lambo. The engage was beautiful, coming in from multiple angles, getting a full surround as well. SKillous had potential with his army, but again, he was caught by that flank, and now Lambo, he is back in the driver's seat. We had a bit of a Zealot counterattack, but not really achieving too much, and what was once 11 Immortals is down to, what is that, 5? Down to half that original Immortal count, and at this point, again, we still need to rebuild once again. SKillous, he's stuck at home.
Yeah, stuck at home, but thankfully this is where he wants to fight. His shield batteries did recover a little bit of energy. He did have a couple of stasis wards here and there. Oh, that's a very vulnerable 5th base, however, for SKillous.
Yeah, Probes are going to be going down the Nexus as well. SKillous, he just doesn't have the map control, doesn't have the army to actually defend that base. So that Nexus is going to be going down. Big piles here on the Oracles, taking one of them down. Very nice pickoffs, as Lambo is still staying on a low worker count. Still very aggressive style here from Lambo, but he does shut down the 5th base. He is hurting, hindering the economy here of SKillous.
Yeah, SKillous trying to fight back with whatever he's got, sending out a couple of charge slots here and there into the middle of the map, and yeah, they are picking off a couple of drones. Lambo hasn't really re-droned just yet, so this can eventually stack back up, and it can eventually lead to SKillous once again outscaling and outpacing Lambo, but for now, he really does have to worry about the sheer numbers of roaches and banelings and lings that Lambo's thrown his way. Trying to get Storm, but it's still quite a ways off.
Yeah, Storm is kind of the missing piece of the puzzle here. We've been lacking it this entire time. It's very late here for SKillous. 5th base is denied once again, and Lambo, he wants to try to encroach on one of these bases here. We are going to be able to keep up with the rotations, but that's still a lot of Lingbane. Lambo has remaxed.
Just like so. Archon's trying to get whatever they can get done. Unlike the previous engagements, this time SKillous does not have a stasis ward to really fall back on.
Up!
The Banelings will crash into this mineral line, completely taking them out. Separately, a couple of Banelings connected with the High Templar as well, so Storm's about to finish, but SKillous can't utilize it.
Yeah, there's nothing left here. We get a kill on the 4th base. The economy as well, 15 probes go down. At the same time, looks like SKillous was trying to go for a big Zealot counterattack, but alas, it has been cleaned up. And now Lambo, he can just keep remaxing, rebuilding, and keep on pushing. There's almost nothing left here for the Protoss. A handful of Immortals, 2 Immortals remaining. The juggling is good, but there's just nothing left.
There really is not, man. GG is called, and Lambo will be taking game number 1 of this best of 3 qualifying match. Oh boy, if only that storm was available 10 or 15 seconds earlier, man.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if we had Storm for the push, right? When we had 11 Immortals pushing out into the map, Storm would have been beautiful against the Ling Bane, but there was no good answer against that. We had a handful of Archons mixed in, but just was not enough, and that was the moment. That was the moment where Lambo was able to kind of take away the control from SKillous. That fight there on the left-hand side when SKillous overextended, and yeah, that was a good moment here for Lambo, and with that, he snowballs into a win.
Yeah. And things are looking very dicey for Lambo, as you were saying. It really came down to that. I don't want to say it really came down to that one engagement, but that was the turning point, as you said. That was when we went from the game being slightly Skillous favored to being heavily in the favor of Lambo.
Oh yeah, exactly. The pendulum swung one way, then the other, and that really tells us that this is a damn good series.
Yep.
That we're able to have that back and forth, and we're able to, yeah, really enjoy this, and hopefully go to the ace match as well as we are getting ready for game number 2. I'm hoping that we can get a game 3. I'm hoping that we can squeeze as much as we can out of this, but we'll see here. As game 2 is going to be on site Delta.
I was hoping I could get into game.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, lobby bugs or BNet sometimes is not gonna be working with us. Doesn't want to work with us, not the most cooperative. So, yeah, we are just gonna be getting into game 2.
Yeah.
Feels BNet, man.
Like so.
Aye. But regardless, I do hope that we can get the most we can out of these two players. You know, again, that was a back and forth, right? As you mentioned, you know, it could have really gone either way for both these players at multiple points in that game.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, there were definitely a few moments where, like you said, it could have really went Skillous' way, but my mind is always going to go back to that surround.
Definitely, yes. Here we go. We're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of site Delta, we have the German Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Shopify Rebellion, leading the series 1-0, 1 game away from advancing on into the next portion, the next stage of the tournament. It is Lambo.
And spawning over here in the top left-hand corner of the map, down but not out in this best of 3 qualifying match. We have our blue Protoss player representing Team Liquid. We have SKillous.
Here we go. This time Lambo not going for the 15-15. As a result, forced to expand elsewhere.
Like so, yep. Not quite able to, really secure that early game natural base.
Yeah, just getting into a much more uncomfortable hatch gas pool opener here from Lambo. Likewise, SKillous going for a gate expanser. Here in the early game, nothing too wild, right? There's no pool first, for example, or gas first, or any kind of hyper aggression. We're just looking to ease our way into the mid game here. I feel like that's where both of our players really thrive.
Yeah, I don't seem to recall any, I don't really seem to recall any early game plays coming out from either of our players here in the past couple of weeks. You know, SKillous had a really good early game in Hecate against DRG, but his build wasn't predicated on getting all that damage early on, right? It was just something that he could have gotten done, and because he got it done, it gave him an advantage as the rest of the game moved forward.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he would love to replicate that here and now. You know, getting that like 13 plus worker kills. We'll see if he can. For now, again, he's just dipping in between the bases. We have our tech of choice once again. No surprise, it's a Stargate.
Well, you say no surprise, but 4 PVZs in a row of Stargate, I'm a little surprised.
He'll like, give me my DTs, give me my Dark Templar. Where's my Invisible Man?
Yeah, give me my Disruptor drops.
Not unheard of. It's yeah. Every now and then we get that too. It does happen.
We are in the land of Nina.
True. As Adept is going to be threatening here across the map, just going to be poking in towards that natural base location, but Lambo is in position, keeps his Lings in the mineral line as well. It is going to be the Oracle first here from SKillous, is going to be committing here to at least the first Oracle. So it looks like that Phoenix opener that we saw previously against DRG is kind of more out of the norm, more of like a fringe build that SKillous reserves every now and then, doesn't really rely on it too much.
Yeah. Especially against a player like Lambo, who I'm sure they meet each other fairly often on the ladder, or even when it comes to practice customs and whatnot. So I'm sure SKillous doesn't. I'm sure SKillous knows that he can't quite pull a fast one on Lambo.
Exactly. Straight up play is what we're going for. Adepts, they do shade in. Lings are out of position, by the way, so drones are going down. Up.
Yeah, they try to retreat away, but that's exactly where the Oracle wants them to be. 7 drones go down, and this Oracle stays alive. This is even more damage than was dealt in that previous series.
Exactly. 11, 12 workers. Just barely can we get one more shot off? We cannot, but we can. 13 drones go down for 2 Adepts. SKillous popping up here in the early game. Meanwhile, the Lings are trying to make it worth their while. They go for a big counterattack, but we have an Oracle back at home. These Lings, they achieve nothing. Up.
I might be able to pick off a couple more Adepts for free, but that doesn't quite make up for the 13 lost drones this early on.
Yeah, that was so unfortunate. Again, Lambo was out of position. He was trying to delay the third base. He was gambling a little bit, and he was punished for it. So this time, a much stronger start for SKillous, killing so many workers here in the early game. And meanwhile, we still have these 3 Oracles alive. We can still get even more damage done. The Spore is not done yet.
Yeah, and that's exactly what SKillous is looking for. Queens are starting to get into position, but SKillous can, of course, try to just dive on top of a couple of drones and then micro away. We'll be able to pick off 1 queen at the cost of one of his oracles.
Yeah, a bit of a greedy move there from SKillous. Was punished for it in the end. Almost lost a second oracle as well. So a little bit of a less than ideal dive that time. But, you know, he still keeps both of his oracles alive. Behind this, we saw a counterattack threatened by Lambo, but didn't quite manage to commit here. Behind this, we have another transition here. This time, not charge.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different unit composition coming out from SKillous. Blink is on the way as Lambo gears up for what looks to be a very Ling-heavy composition with that +1 melee.
Yeah, no Roach Warren yet, which is a little bit unusual here as we reach towards the 6-minute mark. So pure Ling to defend, that can work nicely against Blink Stalkers. To be fair, as Novalid is going to be going down, SKillous is being quite adventurous here. Blink is nowhere near being done, but he's hoping that these Oracles can help support this army from any kind of links around.
Yeah, that'd definitely be ideal, but considering how much energy they've already expended, still a very risky maneuver here from SKillous. Okay, to get a queen? No, not quite.
Oh, the Stalkers!
Oh, will get surrounded, or at least one of them does, and does get taken out. The other Stalker will be able to retreat to shield battery range. That a few Stalkers do get taken out by the Zealots, but the Oracles are going to be able to chase them back as well.
Yeah, very big pickups. That's 4 Stalkers going down to Lings. That was also a wasted recall as well to try to save some of them. So really nice, very efficient pickups here from Lambo. Behind this, now we have the Roach Warren on the way alongside the Lair. We're going to be starting up Roach speed immediately. So Ling Roach is going to be the composition of choice. And so far, Lambo has been fighting back well. SKillous does have the better economy though. He's got 69 nice probes against the 59 of Lambo. So again, SKillous still reaping the rewards here of the earlier harassment.
Yeah, definitely a terrifying prospect here if you're a Zerg player to be that far behind on the worker count to your Protoss opponent. But like you mentioned, you know, Lambo has been able to trade pretty efficiently, so he is getting little bits of value here and there that eventually will stack up. There we go, Lambo just heavily droned, and now he's ahead in the worker count.
There we go. He's just saturating his 4th base. SKillous has had more workers for longer, so he still has slightly the better economy. But as you mentioned, Lambo's catching up. He is catching up here in the economy. That's what's important. Baneling Nest is on the way, so Ling Bane Roach Ravager once again going to be the composition of choice. Oracles, they do threaten the new mining base. They at least confirm the saturation, so they know that Lambo isn't all in on 3 bases or anything crazy like that.
Yeah. He knows that Lambo is now on 80 workers, which is about where you want to stop. I would be very concerned if Lambo drones up more behind all of this, because he really does need to start working on his army. That's exactly what he's doing, getting the louder constitution, getting +2 melee, so yeah, not going to be a hot switch into range units like his roaches just yet. They are just here to keep him alive till he can get to his transition.
Yeah, so as you're saying, so Lingbane Road Ravager from Lambo, Infestation Bit's on the way, we're getting another 5th base as well, so Lambo looking towards the later stages of this game. Meanwhile, SKillous is building up his Death Ball. We have 2 Colossi, 4 Colossi on the way alongside Charge. The Death Ball of an army is amassing, but SKillous did lose a little momentum earlier because he lost so many Stalkers, so he couldn't really assert himself. He's just been stuck at home on these 4 bases.
Yeah, which 4 bases is technically enough to build up a bit of a death ball here to get your robo units out, but you're still sitting on thin ice. If you lose even a handful of workers, you're gonna be at a bit of a deficit here when it comes to sustaining your army.
Yeah, and SKillous knows that, so he's turtling up. We have cannons, shield batteries on the way here towards the south, towards the north as well. He is just heavily fortifying himself on these 4 bases before attempting to take a 5th. Once he does take a 5th, he is going to be spreading himself a little bit more thin. He is going to be, again, exposing himself in a way, and I do appreciate that Lambo is also taking advantage of the passivity of SKillous. SKillous, he hasn't moved out in quite some time, so Lambo, he is free to just keep on taking.
Yep, that is a hive on the way before the 10-minute mark. Hydra Den was thrown down earlier, and there is our Lurker Den.
Yeah, Hydra Lurker Viper is on the horizon, but before we can get into that, we have that 4 Colossus timing. The 4 Colossi have arrived, and SKillous can start pushing out. As he moves out, though, big link counterattack. Again, Lambo, he wants to try to buy as much time as possible and allow himself to get into those Lurkers.
Yeah, he's really not looking good to win a fight right now. That was a kill and not a cancel on that 5th Nexus here from SKillous. Massive link counterattack once again towards the south. This time SKillous now forced to split up his army, and that's exactly what Lambo wants. Lambo just wants to keep SKillous at bay until he can get that really entrenched unit composition with Lurkers and Vipers.
Exactly, and as you say that, there we go. Vipers are in production. Lurker Den is about to finish up as well. Now, Lambo is max, so he's going to have to trade. He has to trade and lose some of these Roaches to make room for Hydras and eventually Lurkers as well. So this is going to be a scary moment for Lambo. Lambo basically has to fight, has to purposely, again, throw away some of his units to reinforce, and hopefully not lose too much to trigger a big counterattack before Lambo can make any Lurkers.
Yeah, Lambo definitely needs to play this out smart. He needs to be a little bit patient with how he approaches throwing away half of his army.
Yeah, and it looks like this Lingbane, at least a couple of them are going to be shaved off here. Lambo likewise getting ready to try to collapse on top of some of these bases. Again, his goal here is to try to snipe a Nexus if possible and trade that for his army, but he does get caught by some of these stasis traps.
Huge stasis connection on just about half of this force here. Again, it does seem like Lambo wants to get rid of some of his supply, but it's a little bit trickier when your supply is cut in half.
The Baileys
will be able to connect on just about every single one of these probes.
Yeah, the mineral line goes down here towards the north. We have another massive counterattack as well. Lambo achieving so much. 17 probes go down, but the bases will stand strong. Here comes the army cleaning up the Lings and the Roaches. We are replacing this army with Hydras, and there we go. The Lurkers are now on the way, but SKillous is going for the counterattack. And can Lambo make those Lurkers in time?
Yeah, we shall see, as this is a golden opportunity for SKillous to really go with this counterattack. If he can take out a base or 2, he is going to be able to recoup those losses, those probe losses that he sustained to the Ling run by. SKillous now maxed out. Lambo not too far behind. A lot of Lurkers are on the way. Lambo knows that there's no way he can defend that base without giving up his entire army, so yeah, he's going to give it away and retreat to a bit more of a defensible location.
Yeah, and that is 10 Lurkers done at this point here. Lambo, he has gotten up to his ideal army. He's on the back foot, though, and there's not a lot to support these Lurkers as he's going for another massive link counterattack. The question becomes, will SKillous turn back around, or will he commit?
That's what we're about to see, as SKillous does turn around. Huge counterattack on just about every single remaining mining base here of SKillous. SKillous forced to recall a little bit. Without the Colossus.
Yeah, he is forced to recall. We have Lingbane in every single base, but we're not really getting much damage done. We have finally some workers going down in the main. The Banelings, they will connect. 12 probes go down. That's an okay amount of damage. But again, Skillous once again wants to push out. But no disruptors, no sky toss. He's focused on a ground-based army composition, and this lurker count has been getting higher and higher. We're up to 12 lurkers, soon to be 15 lurkers.
Yeah, soon to be even more than that, because those are a couple of Hydras on the way from Lambo. Remaking his Ling count, I think he has identified that, you know, these Ling run-bys have been working out for him. Every time he moves out with his Lings, he's preventing Skillous from really getting good position on top of his army where he can really siege down these lurkers and whatnot with his Colossus.
Yeah, and the reality is that this army from Skillous is being outscaled. Hydra Lurker Viper is superior to that of a Colossus gateway-based composition. For the most part, I say for the most part because surprisingly, we have a lot of lurkers, we only have one Viper. This one Viper, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot on its riding on its shoulders here to yoink and abduct as many Colossi as possible. So yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a difficult engage here for Lambo.
Especially if the Viper gets distracted, yoinking a Warp Prism over and over and over again.
Yeah, as we may even go for the Oracle as well. Big revelation here on the army. We do have a secondary force here on the right-hand side. Skillous, likewise, has split up his forces as well. He's going to meet up with these lurkers, but he's out of position.
Yeah, all of them siege up, and that's half of the entire Stalker force sticking out in one volley.
Yeah, Stalkers, they do go down. Lambo looking to just roll and just snowball out of control here. The Gateway is going to be knocked down as well. At the same time, Skill's trying to go for a base trade. He's pushing across the map. That's a kill on a base. Big storms here on the Lurkers, but alas, we need more than that.
Yeah, Lurkers, surprisingly, not that affected by storms when they're underground.
Oh, exactly, as we do see the army here of Skillous actually breaks through that would-be 5th base, and now we're breaking into the natural as well. Lambo is racing back home.
Yeah, trying to get back into position, but unfortunately for Lambo, Zerg doesn't have a recall. He's going to have to fight up his own ramp.
Yeah, exactly, and this is a good position for Skillous. Takes down a lurker as well. At the same time, the main army tries to push on board into a wall of lurkers, so he is going to be denied. He can always recall back home. He snipes the Roach Warren as well, and he can pick off a couple more lurkers here as they try to push up.
That's definitely what he's trying to do. Skillous soon to be backing Lambo in a corner. But like you mentioned, recall is always available. Do you want a recall, though? When your Colossus are that low, I guess he kind of has to. He has no exit.
Yeah, there we go. He goes for the recall in the end. Is going to save both Colossi. Surprisingly, he did shave off a lot of those Hydras. At the same time, though, top left did go down. That was a kill on the Nexus. Skillous still stuck on 4 bases. And we're running out of resources. We're running out of money. And Lambo is still just a line of lurkers just stopping Skillous from advancing.
Yeah, it's 4 bases, quote-unquote. As one of them is about half out of minerals. Once again, this line of lurkers just prevent Skillous from getting from gaining any ground here.
Exactly, and we have 24 lunkers for Lambo. Now we have a double Stargate and a Fleet Beacon on the way. Skytoss is on the horizon here, but Skillous doesn't have the economy for it. Again, he desperately needed a 5th base to be able to facilitate for this. Alas, he doesn't have it, and this transition is very late here for Skillous.
Yeah, ideally, by the time you transition into a Fleet Beacon and Skytoss army, you would have a massive bank, but Skillous was forced to spend his income over and over and over again, just rebuilding his buildings, rebuilding his gateway units. He was never able to really accumulate that bank that you really want in this transition.
Exactly, as we even have enough lurkers to defend and attack at the same time. We have lurkers looking to try and punish this 5th base, but there's no lot to protect them. These lurkers are all going to go down.
Yeah, a couple of storms soften them up as the Archons do clean the rest of them out. A couple of Archons and a couple of Stalkers do get taken down in that fight, but it's barely anything compared to all the lurkers. Meanwhile, towards the south, however, Lambo is gaining ground. Lambo is pushing in.
Oh no, the army! Oh my god. Skillous almost overextends, and he does here, just having a hard time controlling his forces, just wandering into lurker fire. We do have an observer over this army, but that's a lot of lunkers. They're going to be covering each other. Skillous trying to set up us around, but he's down in supply.
Very, very much so. It's very difficult to go for a surround when you don't really have enough volume to envelop your army.
Exactly. We are getting on top of some of these Lurkers. These Archons, they're overcharged, putting in a lot of work. The Archons, they refuse to die, and it looks like we may just barely be able to clean this up. It's going to be close here. The Colossi, they barely pull back. One of them goes down, but we take down almost every single Lurker.
And with that, it looks like the backbone of Lambo's army has been broken. Lambo very much on the back foot, and this was a devastatingly expensive loss here for Lambo. Forced to spend his entire mineral bank.
Yeah, he's got gas, but no minerals at this point, and he is down to 3 Lurkers remaining from 25 down to 3. But we are remaxing, we're rebuilding. But speaking of remaxing and rebuilding, SKillous, he does hold on to that 5th base. He now gets a fresh mining base up and running, and now we can start working towards Skytoss. Unfortunately, unlike Lambo, SKillous has no gas and excess minerals, so it's going to take a while to get into those carriers.
They need to trade. You know, they need to trade positions.
They do. Is actually Lambo, he burned through his gas bank as well. He's just burning through everything right now. Both players on sub 70 workers here, but again, so very important that SKillous has a new mining base. Meanwhile, Lambo has a decent economy of his own, as both players are going to back off and lick their wounds.
Slowly but surely. They do have to recalibrate, so to speak, and get back into recalibrate, rebuild, reposition their armies. Don't think Lambo is actually aware of SKillous' transition just yet.
Yeah, checking his vision, he has not seen it. He has not seen anything in the main base for quite some time, and the carriers have not revealed themselves either. So this is going to be a surprise, which is why, I don't know if you noticed, but Lambo, he's basically morphing every single Hydra into Lurkers. There's 2 Hydras left, no Spire, no Corruptor. Oh, sorry, there is a Spire, but no Corruptor production. So Lambo has very limited anti-air. Even a handful of carriers, they could swing a fight in favor of SKillous.
They absolutely could. I mean, carriers on their own, they do just kind of tickle these Lurkers, so Lambo might try to go for a bit of a base trade, but we're not looking at just carriers at this point. We're looking at carriers, we're looking at the Colossus that survived, we're looking at the Immortals that survived, we're looking at the Archon that survived, which, now that I say it out loud, it actually isn't a lot of a crowd army.
It is. We do have a lot of Storms, a lot of High Templar. We need to feed back those Vipers. The carriers are now revealing themselves. And again, how many Hydras do we have? 9. 9 Hydras. That is not enough to deal with. How many carriers? 5, soon to be 7. SKillous, he can deal with this army, at least head on. He's going to try.
Like so. Couple of Storms to soften things up, while the Colossus and the carriers really put in a ton of work.
Yeah. And you can see just not enough anti-air. The ground army of Lambo being forced back. SKillous, he takes a supply lead. We have 13 Corruptors on the way. But the scary thing about these Corruptors, they are 1-0 Corruptors. They have +1 air attack. That is all they have. They do not have good upgrades here. And as a result, Lambo, he's on the back foot.
Very, very much so. And now he's trying to do whatever he can to try to get his foot up once again. Trying to harass wherever he can, but this time, he's not getting much done. SKillous is much more fortified in his bases. Corruptors are out, but not quite in position.
Yeah, and we do take down a Queen. We take down some of the creep as well. Lambo is just trying to buy time. He's just building up a higher Corruptor count. There it is, +1 air defense. Air carapace now on the way for Lambo, but he needs a little bit of time for those upgrades to kick in. SKillous still not fully committing to any of these pushes, though. This is a new mining base. I say new base. This base has now been retaken, reestablished. SKillous, though, in position to try and deny it.
Yeah, try being the operating word, as this is mostly just carriers in this army. There are a handful of Archons on the ground, but even still, Lambo doesn't have much anti-air. We'll be able to keep this base alive for now, but loses a couple of drones.
Yeah, he has to be very careful. 7 workers did go down here in that carrier assault. We do have a ground army getting ready for a surround as well, so Lambo has to be very careful. There are the yoinks! We do abduct a couple of those Archons and Immortals, but that means there's less energy to deal with these carriers as we can keep on pushing big revelation on these lurkers.
Yeah, a lot of them will be taken out, as well as the Spore Crawlers that were in production. Lambo has to be very careful of how he engages that. That's a Void Ray transition coming out from SKillous.
Void Rays, they can have their way with Corruptors. You activate the Prismatic Alignment, and Corruptors, they melt here against the Mass Void Ray. I'm loving this choice here from SKillous. He pushes on forward. Some of the stack defense not quite in position. The Lurkers either. Big Storm here. Transfuse will keep the Lurkers alive. But again, SKillous is trying to find a way into trying to break this base.
Yeah. And the way to break that base is through Void Rays. SKillous right now just trying to maneuver around, poke and prod at the army of Lambo and see what he can get done. Lambo, meanwhile, going to be denying a base here from SKillous. SKillous has actually been able to finally expand quite a lot more on towards the middle of the map.
After gaining map control, immediately he double expanded, took the center base, took the southern base as well. Big storm here on the Lings. These lurkers looking that much more exposed. And here comes a couple of reinforcements to try to clean this up. Lambo, these are expensive losses here. A lot of lunkers going down.
Once again, that battery overcharge, putting in overtime, keeping one Archon alive, which was the one Archon that all the lurkers were really focusing on. So, yeah, the rest of Skills' army was able to clean that up. The Void Rays have now arrived.
Up.
Now, Lambo realizes that he has to make some huge moves to really deal with the Skytoss army.
Speaking of big yoinks here, 2 carriers go down, but the base is falling here, down getting very low here at this point. Looks like SKillous is going to be forced back though. Where is the supportive units here? Big storms, big feedbacks as well.
Yeah, Viper's not going to be able to play their role, not going to be able to yoink these units. Corruptors just go for it, and they will be able to take out the carriers, but not all of them, and a lot of the Corruptors do fall to the Void Rays once again.
Yeah, we do reset the carrier count though. 1 carrier is remaining. Meanwhile, at the same time, the ground army of SKillous takes down the center mining base of Lambo. SKillous still has an army to work with. We'll be losing all of his sky toss, but now it's about the ground toss. He's remaxing on carriers, but the ground army, we're going for another base.
Yeah, and what is there really to defend here for Lambo? He has all of these Corruptors. That's a majority of his supply. Supply, which I will remind you, is lower than SKillous. SKillous taking that supply lead for the first time in, I want to say, 20 minutes in this game.
It's been a while. It has been a while. As you were mentioning, these Corruptors, they don't really have a lot of use. There's no Greater Spire, so no Broodlords. No Broodlords are available. The Corruptors, they're looking for some kind of value. They're looking for any kind of pickoff as they're sharking around. The Lurkers are going for their own counterattack. Lambo, he is down to 6 Lurkers left. His economy is in shambles. He has 1 mining base, essentially, as he's out of minerals everywhere else.
Yeah, he, for a very split second there, had pretty much 0 income. But he is
surround
rebuilding a couple of units. He is trying to go for a surround SKillous is, and he will absolutely clean up the Zerg army of Lambo. There's no
detection! Oh my god, the lurkers are going ham on this topic, but the observer does arrive. We can clean this up. The Archons go ham, and that's going to be the end of Lambo's army. GG gets called, and SKillous will tie things up 1-1. We're going to the ace match.
Here we go. It took us a little qualifying match, but we're not. But here we are getting our first 2-1 of the evening. Who's going to get the 2? We don't know.
Oh my god, we are going the distance for the first time here in our broadcast tonight. We have an ace match. We have a game number 3, and I'm all here for it. I'm ready to, again, sink my teeth into that ace match. And this this last game was very back and forth. That was a very tense moment. Remember when Lambo did an amazing job buying time, buying so much time to get into lunker production, and when he got those lurkers out, he was in control. He was able to defend. He was kind of putting SKillous in a really brutal position. Until there was that one moment, remember, where Lambo pushed out with his mass lurker army through the center of the map, in between all the bases, and he got surrounded, and he actually got cleaned up.
Yeah. My life flashed before me when I noticed that Lambo had 25 lurkers. It feels like a story we've seen many, many times over. Once the Zerg player gets a critical mass of lurkers, things don't go too well for the Protoss player. SKillous, though. He knew how to respond. He had the tools that he needed. He needed a lot of time to get there, but thankfully he was able to figure out a way to buy himself enough time to get to that point where he was able to transition to a Skytoss army.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I was very impressed that SKillous was able to survive, right? As you're kind of alluding to, there was a big period where Lambo had the best, like the ideal anti-ground toss army. He had the lurkers, was lacking a little bit in the Vipers, but mass lurker essentially, and SKillous was trying to buy time to get into carry production, and he was able to do so. He was able to fight well enough, engage well enough, defend well enough, and survive long enough to get into the 7 or so carriers that he had. It was very impressive. Very impressive there from SKillous. I'm a little bit shocked and a little bit in awe that he was able to make that happen. I thought for a while there, I thought like it was over. I thought the lunkers would reign supreme.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm in awe, but I can't say I'm too upset about that. We're getting to our ace match.
Yeah, same, right? Like we all want the game 3. We wanted the ace match. These two players are amazing at what they do. It would be a shame if it was a 2-0 in either direction. We all want this to go the distance, and it's happening.
Here we go. Get ready for game number 3 here. One map to rule them all. One map to determine who's going to be our first player from open stage group B to advance to that knockout stage. Knockout bracket. Stages, brackets, you know.
we get what you're saying, Bobby. We get what you're saying. It's all good. It's all good. So settling into the center, and yeah, I tell you, we have a little bit of time to ourselves here. I'm a little bit jealous. I'm loving your outfit today as well. Like I don't have a hat. That's my for Christmas. I do my best to get my hands on a lovely cowboy hat there. Very very on brand here with this edition's Dreamhack with ESL Masters Winter. Also, look, everyone be in awe with Yaku because that duck that's on the hat, it's not glued on. He's been balancing that duck the entire time that he's been casting.
No sudden neck movements.
Oh god! Now that we brought attention to it, now it's gonna fall over. Now it's
one sneeze and that's all it's gonna take.
Oh no! Be careful. Take care of the duck, puppy.
It doesn't have its seatbelt on. I keep trying to tell it, you need the seatbelt. It's too cool.
Too cool for school. So I'm loving it as we're settling into the ace match here. Again, as a reminder to everyone in the chat, do not worry. Whoever loses this series will still have another shot, another chance.
Indeed, they will, and we'll see who will have to rely on that second chance and who will get the peace of mind to just advance here on hard lead, where we're here in the top left-hand corner map spawning. All the way in the top left, we have our red Zerg player coming down from the land of Germany. Going to be representing Shopify Rebellion. We have Lambo. Get your Rambos ready.
And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the blue Protoss player representing Team Liquid. It is SKillous. Fighting back in that last game, forcing the ace match, forcing game 3. Let's go.
Let's go indeed. And we were kind of alluding to it earlier on, these two players, Lambo and SKillous, we'd imagine them typically as being pretty comparable when it comes to that skill level. It really depends on who shows up on the day itself, who is really in form, and today it really does seem like both of them are in form. It really does seem like it's very difficult to really make any sweeping predictions of who is more in form and who is going to be advancing to the knockout stage.
Exactly. Who advances on into a higher seed, into a more comfortable position in that next stage is what we're really going to be hoping for, at least what our players are hoping for. But again, this could still go either way, either the way of the Zerg or the way of the Protoss. And again, that lower bracket is not going to be an easy one. You still have players like DRG, like Shin, these terrifying opponents that could, very easily just knock you down and knock you out of the tournament.
What is the way of the Zerg?
The way of the Zerg?
Yeah.
The way of the dark.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the way you phrase those, kind of, like it reminded me of Kung Fu movies. Like, you need to go the way of the Zerg.
Exactly.
You must reach inside of you.
You need to close all your curtains. You need to embrace the smudge, Poppy. Embrace the darkness, as we've seen many times in WTL. And you can even go one step further, like Dark, and even have a harness on hand.
For training.
We are getting into our ace match, and we're loading into a bit of a smaller map. We're loading into hard lead. Now, something that we have seen many times, and we haven't seen it yet from Lambo, we saw it attempted from DRG, is we have seen a lot of aggression from Zerg players in this map, where you cut workers early on, like 60 to 66 drones, make nothing but roaches. You water your queens across the map and you go for a big all-in. Just because the short rush is by ground, and just because of this base as well, you can kind of use it to like launch your creep across the map and make that push that much more devastating.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to be seeing a German taxi coming up from Lambo.
It would be on brand. It would very much so be on brand. Not saying that that will happen, but we've seen it before, and I'm sure we'll see it again. I'm sure it's something that's in the back of Skills' mind. It's something you have to be wary of here on Hard Lead.
Yeah. Which is why it is a pretty good choice here from SKillous to, once again, opt for a Stargate opening. Once again, opt for double Oracle, you know. Aside from just being able to get some damage, it will be a way to keep him active on the map, will be a very good way for him to keep tabs on what Lambo is up to, for him to really check the saturation of these bases.
Oh, exactly. As he does dive into the natural base, 3 workers go down. Not a bad pickoff. It did cost him quite a lot of HP, quite a lot of hull damage, but the Oracle does escape, and not a bad start here to kick things off as Lambo's just focusing on re-droning, and Skillous is looking for even more damage. Remember, last game, Skillous was able to pop off. He killed, what, 13 drones
13.
again? Yeah, the lucky number.
Yeah. It's going to have to go up to... Okay, so initially it was... What was it? 7 against CRG? Now it's 13.
Uh-huh.
The next game it's going to be up to
69.
69. There we go.
We'll see. We'll see if Skills can find that much damage. Again, you know, that was kind of him gaining early game advantage there in game number 1, where he was able to kill so many workers and really put Lambo on the back foot. Meanwhile, we do have a much earlier Roach Warren compared to last game here for Lambo. Not the earliest, as an Oracle is going to go down, and that is going to make it that much more difficult for Skills to scout.
Yeah, it really will. Thankfully, he does have that third Oracle in position to throw in a couple of revelations to, once again, just keep tabs on Lambo. But like you said, that's one fewer Oracle, much less energy. That's that many fewer revelations available for him.
Exactly. So Skills has to be very wary about this. He's going to be pushing onto creep here, clearing up a lot of this. Really good move here because we spoke about it earlier. This is a bit of a launch pad location as Queens are moving forward. We do have roaches in production. It looks like defensive roaches for the time being, but my eyes are glued to the drone count. Is Lambo going to actually saturate even further from here, or are we going to be committing? We're committing.
Well, yeah, that's a full round of Lings on the way. That's 4 Queens walling away off creep. And Skillous, I believe, scouted this, should be aware. He is working on chargelets and a Templar Archives back home, but we'll see if they're going to be available by the time this fight happens.
Yeah, here we go. We're completely all in here. Lambo cutting workers at 50, so a very committed push. We alluded to a German taxi earlier. Not quite. We're just going to be waddling across the map.
Oh,
and
no!
the Lings, they do get... Oh, my God. They almost do get in. They do pull back. Remember, they get us around on a Stalker.
And it's really impactful right now for Skillous. He needs all the firepower he can get to really chase away all of these Lings and these Queens as well. A couple of shield batteries will be finishing up. They will be within range for a battery overcharge, but will they be in range of the actual units, of the Stalkers, of the Zealots and whatnot?
And that's a question because we invested into charge. Charge is not what we want here in the defense. Blink is still nowhere near being done. Bar's going to be connecting. That's Nartosis pylon. Every shield battery gets powered. There's one behind this overcharge. Is barely popped. The boys, they have to be pulled.
And the boys will be providing a little bit of damage, but now they're starting to really, really fall. Skillous can, of course, afford to lose a couple of workers here and there, because this is a very dedicated all-in, but now he's starting to lose his army units, and that is going to be it. GG is called, and Lambo will be our first player advancing to the knockout stage. Nicely done here. Did not want, or rather Lambo did not want another long grinding game like on Site Delta, so just took the initiative, ended it quick, and will be advancing to that knockout stage, taking that series 2-1.
GG, well played. We alluded to it when we loaded into the game. We brought it up for good reason. It is very common on this map for Zerg players to cut workers early on. We were talking about like a 60 drone or a 66 drone timing. No, Lambo said no to that. He cut workers at 50, that much earlier to commit to the all-in. And unfortunately, Skillous was not prepared at all. He didn't see the army moving out across the map. He was hoping that maybe he was able to slow it down with all that, with denying the creep and harassing. On top of that, he went for
Whoa.
charge first, not blink. And as a result, with the prioritization of charge ults, they are not the unit you want to defend there.
They absolutely are not. A little bit of a side note, but I'm in the post-game performance screen here. Lambo apparently had an APM of 1,005.
He did. That's a lot of APM. He's a
That
fast boy,
is-
Papi.
Yeah, fast boy.
So again, congratulations to Lambo for advancing on in first place out of this group. SKillous is going to be knocked down to the lower bracket where he's waiting for the winner, or he's waiting for his next opponent. It looks like quite a lot of matches are still underway, and it's going to be quite some time before SKillous has an opponent, but we can go over some of these results.
Yeah, a lot of the results have happened. A lot of the games have concluded, I should say, here in bracket B. Obviously, we know that Lambo is going to be the first player to advance, but it looks like Foxer did take out Dolan 2-0, so now he is facing Shin in a TVZ. Meanwhile, potential upset here. Reaper took out Geralt 2-1, where he went on to face DRG. DRG, on the other hand, did take out Reaper 2-0, so yeah, now DRG is waiting for either Shin or Foxer in that lower bracket semifinal. Winner of that will be going up against SKillous for the second qualifying match.
Yeah, so SKillous, he's waiting for either DRG, Shin, or Foxer, and we will have some updates soon when it comes to some of those matches. It looks like some of those players are still mid-series or in-game, so yeah, we can take a moment here to catch our breath on everything that's been going on. Meanwhile, when it comes to Group A, I know we've been hyper-fixated on Group B. That's kind of been, where we've been focusing, but towards the northern portion of the bracket, Mana took down Hero 2-1, and Creator took down Mana 2-1. Creator, he's the first to qualify here from Group A.
Yeah. A very Protoss-heavy group, and Creator was able to prove himself as the Protossiest Protoss to have ever Protoss, ? That's what I'm going for. Obviously, he had a Zerg opponent in Mixu in the first match, and he took him out 2-0, but then taking out Nightmare 2-0 is in itself a pretty impressive feat, as Nightmare has historically been known for being a little bit of a PvP sniper, and then to move on to face Mana and take him out 2-1 as well. That's boding pretty well here for Creator, at least when it comes to PvP.
Yeah, but I don't want to gloss over Mana. Mana had a really, really impressive run. He beat DNS. I'll be honest, I would have favored DNS there. DNS has been impressing me quite a lot recently, so big win from Mana there. Then he took down a Hero, and then he took a game and forced the ace match out of Creator as well. So Mana, don't count him out. In PvP tonight, he's also on fire.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that rematch between Mana and Hero. Hero right now gonna be waiting for an opponent in the lower bracket semifinal. Again, gotta be a PvP over there. I knew that was the reason why we decided to jump into bracket B. Yeah, Hero gonna be waiting for the Nightmare or DNS.
Yeah, he is going to be lying in wait. So for now, we're going to be going on a short break. I was just going to quickly say it'd be so heartbreaking if two seasons in a row, Hero didn't make it out of the open bracket. He didn't make it out of Yongshiping, and here at Atlanta, I'm worried for him. I am worried.
We shall see. We shall see. I mean, he won the last ESL Masters Atlanta, so he's kind of the defending champion ? Of this particular region. So yeah, it definitely has a lot on the line here for Hero.
Oh yeah. As here we go, we have a couple of updates. Shin did take down Foxer 2-0, and Shin also has eliminated DRG, took him down, I believe, 2-1. So we're going to be going on a short break. When we return, SKillous versus Shin up next.
There we go. See you soon.